When the first bombs fell, Ethan was high above the colony plains, repairing a solar tower that fed power to Haven Reach. The sky was clear and blue, and the twin suns hung low, warming the metal beneath his gloves. He worked slowly, carefully, humming an old tune he barely remembered the words to. Below him the colony looked calm. Homes stood in neat rows. Children moved between buildings. Cargo trucks rolled along wide, dusty roads. Nothing felt dangerous. The warning came late. Not as a siren, not as a voice, but as a strange shadow that slid across the land. Ethan noticed it first because the solar panels dimmed all at once. He frowned and looked up. Something huge blocked the light. Ships. They were not shaped like anything he knew. Long, smooth forms drifted through the sky, dark against the suns. They made no sound. No signal came through Ethan's headset. No message appeared on his wrist screen. For a moment the world seemed to pause. Then the light came. Far away, a city on the horizon vanished in a silent flash. There was no fireball, no loud explosion. Just a bright white line from the sky to the ground, and then empty space where buildings had been. Ethan froze. His hands shook as another beam struck, closer this time. A wave of heat rolled across the plains. The ground trembled, gentle but wrong, like the planet itself was uneasy. Still no warning. Still no voice. People below began to run. Tiny figures scattered like ants. Ethan's headset filled with broken signals, half-formed words, screams cut short, static where voices should be. He tried to speak, to ask what was happening, but the channel was flooded. The alien fleet never spoke. More beams fell. Entire sections of Haven Reach disappeared without sound. Power died as the solar grid collapsed, one tower after another. The bright colony lights flickered and went dark. Ethan climbed down as fast as he could, skin prickling with fear. His mind refused to believe what his eyes saw. This was not an accident. This was not a mistake. This was a decision. The ships did not chase fleeing people. They did not fire wildly. Each strike was calm and exact. Population centers. Power hubs. Communication towers. Everything that made the colony alive was erased first. To them humans were weak. Ethan reached the ground and ran. He did not know where he was going. He only knew he needed to move. Around him others ran too. Some cried. Some shouted names. Some were silent, faces empty as if their minds had stepped away. A final beam struck near the spaceport. The launch pads vanished. Any chance of escape burned away in an instant. Then just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The ships drifted higher. One by one they turned and slipped into the dark between stars. No message followed. No demand. No declaration of victory. They simply left. Ash drifted through the air like gray snow. The sky cleared again, bright and peaceful as if nothing had happened. But Haven Reach was broken. Whole cities were gone. The ground was scarred with long, smooth marks where beams had touched. Ethan collapsed behind the remains of a storage wall, breathing hard. His ears rang. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely close them. He waited for another strike that never came. Silence settled over the colony. Hours passed. Or maybe days. Time lost meaning. Small groups of survivors emerged from shelters, tunnels, and half-buried buildings. They moved slowly, stunned, afraid that any noise might bring the ships back. Ethan joined them. He helped lift debris. He shared water. He listened. No one knew who the attackers were. No one had received a message. Long-range comms were dead. Short-range systems worked only in bursts. Haven Reach was alone. That night the colony was dark. The sun set and no lights came on. Fires burned where people tried to keep warm. Above them the stars looked the same as always. Cold, distant, uncaring. Ethan lay on the ground staring up. He thought about Earth, a place he had never seen but felt deeply connected to. He thought about other colonies scattered across space just like this one. Were they safe? Or were they burning too? The next days were worse. Search teams found nothing where cities once stood. No ruins. No bodies. Just smooth, empty ground. Whatever weapon the aliens used did not leave much behind. It was as if the colony had been erased from a page. Food became scarce. Power was almost gone. Medical supplies ran low. Still no one panicked. Humans had survived worse. They always had. What frightened Ethan most was the quiet. No ships returned. No signals arrived. No enemy watched from orbit. It was as if Haven Reach no longer mattered to the universe. On the third night Ethan noticed something strange. His wrist screen flickered to life for a second. A single symbol appeared, simple and plain. Not an alert. Not a warning. A status light. It glowed green. Around the colony, others saw the same thing. Old terminals powered on for brief moments. Hidden systems hummed deep underground. Doors that no one remembered building unlocked themselves and then sealed again. These were not alien machines. These were human. Long ago, before Ethan was born, humanity had planned for the worst. Not invasion. Not war. Something deeper. Total loss. The moment when no help would come, and survival would depend on what was left behind. Those systems had waited quietly for centuries. Now they were waking up. Ethan did not know this yet. He only knew that the silence felt different now. Less empty. Less final. Like a deep breath taken after a long fall. The galaxy, far away, watched the human colonies go dark. Sensors recorded the sudden loss of signals. Trade routes adjusted. Charts were updated. Human space was marked as dead. The aliens believed their work was done. They did not see the lights turning on beneath ruined worlds. They did not hear the old systems speak to one another for the first time in generations. They did not understand that humanity had gone quiet not because it was gone, but because it was waking up. Deep underground, Sarah sat alone in a quiet control room, lit only by thin lines of blue light. The room had no windows. It never needed them. It was built to survive when the surface could not. Above her, layers of rock and metal shielded the place from fire, shock, and time itself. She had lived here for 3 days. When the bombs fell, Sarah had been in the lower levels of Haven Reach's archive sector. She remembered the sudden shake, the lights going out, the long moment when everyone stopped breathing. Then the old systems had taken control. Heavy doors sealed. Elevators locked. Emergency power came on without a sound. Most people never knew this place existed. Sarah did because it was her job. She stood now, hands resting on a cold metal console, watching lines of text scroll across a wide screen. Systems that had been asleep for hundreds of years were waking up, one by one. Their names were simple. Dry. Almost boring. But Sarah knew what they meant. Safeguard Net, active. Continuity Core, online. Archive Memory, stable. Link attempt, successful. She swallowed and took a slow breath. These systems were never weapons. That was the first rule written into their design. They could not fire a shot. They could not command an army. They existed for one reason only, to make sure humanity did not disappear. Long ago, when humans first spread to the stars, they learned a hard truth. Space was vast, beautiful, and dangerous. Not every threat came with a warning. Not every enemy spoke. Some disasters did not care who you were or what you wanted. So humanity planned. They hid knowledge in deep vaults. They built networks that did not rely on open signals. They trained people like Sarah to listen, to wait, and to act only when the worst had already happened. Now the worst had come. Sarah tapped a panel and a soft sound filled the room. Voices. Quiet at first, broken by static but real. This is Jonah. Anyone hear me? Medical bay still standing. We're alive, power is low. Survivors. Not just from Haven Reach. Signals came from other systems too. Far colonies. Research stations. Mining worlds. Places spread across human space. Across human space, survivors were connecting. Not through normal channels. Those were gone. Burned away or shut down. These signals traveled through hidden paths, old relays buried inside comets, moons, and drifting stations. The aliens had never seen them. Never known to look. Sarah's hands moved quickly now. She routed signals, strengthened links, filtered noise. Faces appeared on smaller screens. Tired faces. Dirty faces. Living faces. No one asked who attacked them. No one demanded revenge. The question was always the same. What do we do now? Sarah answered with calm she did not fully feel. We stay quiet, she said. We gather. We count who's left. Some people argued. Some cried. Some sat in silence, staring at the screens as if afraid they might fade away. Humanity did not scream back. There were no threats sent into space. No angry messages. No calls for help that might reveal where survivors hid. Instead, data flowed. Food levels. Water supply. Population numbers. Medical needs. Knowledge stores. Every piece of information mattered. Every life mattered. Sarah watched the map grow. Small lights appeared on a dark field, each one marking a place where humans still lived. The lights were few. Much fewer than before. But they were steady. She remembered her training. A voice from years ago echoed in her mind. If this system ever wakes up, the instructor had said, it means we failed to avoid disaster. But it does not mean we failed to survive. Sarah straightened her back. The continuity core requested access. She hesitated for a moment, then approved it. The core was not alive, not truly, but it was close enough to feel heavy. It held history, culture, science, art. Everything humans had ever decided was worth keeping. Integrity check complete, the system reported in a flat voice. Human record preserved. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. In another underground room, far away on a different world, a man named Lucas watched the same lights appear. He had been a teacher before the attack. Now he organized children into quiet groups, teaching them using lessons pulled from the archive. They learned math by lantern light. They learned stories of Earth, of oceans and skies they might never see. On a frozen moon, Mia and her team restarted an old water recycler, guided by instructions sent through the hidden network. On a damaged station drifting between stars, Aaron patched a hull breach because someone somewhere still knew how. None of them knew Sarah's face, but all of them felt the same thing. They were not alone. Days passed, then weeks. The safeguards worked slowly, carefully. They moved people only when it was safe. They shared resources. They rerouted supply drones that had been drifting without orders. Old machines found new purpose. Still, humanity stayed silent. The alien coalition watched from afar. Their sensors saw no fleets, no energy spikes, no angry response. Human space remained dark. They marked it as empty. Sarah read those reports too. The system showed her fragments of alien data, collected quietly from the edge of space. The conclusion was clear. The attackers believed humans were gone. That belief was a shield. Sarah met with others through the network. Leaders chosen not by rank but by trust. Engineers, doctors, farmers, teachers. What about fighting back? Someone asked. Sarah shook her head. Not yet, she said. If ever. She explained the purpose of the safeguards. They were not built for revenge. They were built to outlast threats, not chase them. To make sure that even if humanity lost everything once, it would not lose itself. Preparation was not loud. Preparation was patient. The system began deeper work now. Star charts updated. Safe zones mapped. Long-term plans formed. Generations, not battles, were considered. Sarah watched the process with tired eyes. She missed the surface. She missed the open sky. But she knew this place mattered more now than comfort ever could. Late one cycle, as she rested her head against the console, a new message appeared. Safeguard Phase 2 ready. Awaiting human confirmation. Her heart beat faster. Phase 2 was rarely discussed. Even in training it was treated with care. It did not mean war. It meant awakening systems even older, even quieter. Systems meant to protect life on a scale few could imagine. Sarah did not approve it yet. She looked at the map again. At the lights. At the proof that humanity still existed. We're not done preparing, she whispered. The system waited. Somewhere far above, the galaxy turned as it always had. Stars burned. Empires argued. Fleets moved. No one noticed the quiet work happening beneath dead worlds. No one realized that humanity's silence was not fear. It was focus. It was the sound of something ancient and careful opening its eyes, one system at a time. The alien coalition noticed the change slowly. At first, it appeared as small errors in their scans. Navigation systems reported slight shifts in gravity near former human stars. Trade ships adjusted their paths without knowing why. Long-range sensors returned readings that did not match any known pattern. The coalition analysts dismissed it. Human space was dead. The colonies were gone. There was nothing left to watch. But the errors continued. Near a quiet yellow star once home to a human farming world, space bent just enough to confuse guidance systems. Not violently. Not dangerously. Just enough to force ships to slow down. Near another star, radiation levels dropped to impossible lows, as if something unseen was smoothing the energy of the system. The coalition sent probes. The probes did not return. Not destroyed. Not damaged. They simply stopped sending data, as if they had been gently disconnected from reality. That was when concern spread. A meeting was called among the coalition leaders. Many species sat together, linked through light and sound, sharing data. They replayed the scans again and again. There is movement, one analyst said. Large-scale movement. But no fleets, another replied. No weapons fire. They focused on one system, a former human core world. Long ago it had burned with cities and satellites. Now it was quiet. Too quiet. Then something appeared. It was not a ship. It was massive, stretching across millions of kilometers, unfolding like a slow, careful thought. It did not emerge from hyperspace. It did not arrive. It woke up. The structure surrounded the star in wide arcs, forming rings and nodes that shimmered with soft light. Gravity adjusted around it. Space itself seemed to relax, becoming smoother, more stable. The coalition watched in silence. "Is it a weapon?" someone asked. "No," said another. "It's not aiming." That was true. The structure did not track ships. It did not charge energy. It simply existed, changing the system around it. Then more awakened. Near other human stars, similar structures came online. Some were ring-shaped. Others were long and branching, like roots spreading through space. Each one altered its region in the same careful way. They reshaped space itself. Travel became slow near them, but safe. Unstable stars calmed. Dangerous radiation storms faded. Even natural space-time faults, once deadly, were smoothed out. The coalition realized these machines were not attacking. They were fixing. Confusion turned into fear when a border war between two non-human empires suddenly stopped. A fleet fired its weapons across a disputed system. The shots vanished mid-flight, absorbed by nothing visible. Power systems shut down across both sides. Engines went quiet. Weapons refused to respond. A signal appeared on every ship, simple and clear. Hostile action detected. Stability enforced. The fleets drifted, helpless but unharmed. Hours later, their systems slowly restarted. The message did not repeat. The war did not resume. Across nearby regions, the same thing happened. Pirates lost power the moment they attacked. Secret superweapons failed before firing. Ancient doomsday devices, hidden for ages, powered down and stayed that way. These machines did not destroy. They prevented. Coalition panic grew. "This is human retaliation," some claimed. "They are punishing us." But the data did not support it. The systems acted without anger. Without focus on any single species. They reacted only to instability, violence, and threat. A mining ship could pass unharmed. A research vessel could approach safely. But the moment aggression rose, the response was instant and calm. Containment. The word spread through coalition space. Containment fields. Containment zones. Containment events. The coalition sent envoys to the edges of the affected regions. No one crossed deep into them. It felt wrong, like stepping into a place that did not want you there. Near one structure, a small coalition scout ship slowed to a stop without losing power. Space around it grew thick, like moving through water. The crew felt no fear, only a strange pressure, like being watched. A message appeared. "Do not advance. This region is under protection." "Protection of what?" the captain asked aloud. There was no answer. Weeks passed. Then months. The machines remained. They did not spread quickly. They did not cover the entire galaxy. They positioned themselves with care, guarding former human regions and key space routes near them. They formed a quiet wall, separating chaos from calm. The coalition finally accepted the truth. This was not retaliation. If humans wanted revenge, they would have struck hard and fast. They would have destroyed worlds. They would have erased fleets. Instead, the galaxy was being forced into order. Humanity had not screamed back. It had responded like a caretaker waking in the middle of the night, finding a house on fire and calmly putting the flames out, locking the doors so no one could light another. A second meeting was called. "We made a mistake," one leader said. "We assumed silence meant weakness." Another replied, "We assumed survival meant aggression." Data flowed between them. Old human records, gathered from archives long ignored, were reviewed again. Warnings once dismissed now carried new weight. Humans had always planned far ahead. They had never trusted the universe to be kind. The coalition tried to send a message into the protected zones. At first, nothing happened. Then a response came, not from the machines but routed through them. A human voice. "Come. Tired. Clear." "We are not at war," the voice said. "But we will not allow extinction-level actions to continue." "Are you threatening us?" a coalition leader asked. "No," the voice replied. "We are limiting risk." The channel closed. Some leaders were angry. Some were afraid. A few were relieved. Trade routes slowly adapted. Wars cooled. Old conflicts lost their edge when violence became impossible near the protected regions. For the first time in generations, large areas of space grew quiet. Not empty. Stable. Deep within one of the structures, far from alien eyes, systems communicated with one another. They shared data across light years, adjusting, learning, refining their purpose. They were not alive. But they carried the weight of human choice. They remembered why they were built. Not to rule. Not to punish. But to ensure that no species, human or otherwise, could casually erase another and walk away. The alien coalition understood now. They had not awakened a monster. They had awakened a boundary. And boundaries, once drawn, were very hard to cross. The message was sent without ceremony. There was no dramatic signal flare, no fleet escort, no demand for attention. It moved quietly through the stabilized regions, guided by the same systems that bent space and calmed stars. It reached the coalition chambers without resistance, appearing on screens and translators across many worlds at the same moment. A human stood at the center of the image. His name was Daniel. He looked ordinary. Middle-aged. Calm. His clothes were simple, his posture steady. Behind him was a plain room, softly lit, with no symbols of power. No flags. No weapons. Nothing meant to impress. He waited until the noise faded. "We didn't build this to conquer," Daniel said. His voice was clear and even. Not loud. Not weak. "We built it because the universe is dangerous, and someone had to survive long enough to protect it." Silence followed. Coalition leaders watched closely. Some leaned forward. Some remained still, eyes sharp. Many had expected anger. Threats. Demands. They received none. Daniel continued. "For a long time humanity believed we were alone. Then we learned we were not. That was not a comfort. It was a warning." Images appeared beside him. Old recordings. Human ships damaged by unknown forces. Colonies lost to storms, stars, and mistakes. Charts showing how often civilizations vanished without explanation. "We studied extinction," Daniel said. "Not because we wanted to cause it. Because we wanted to avoid it." The images shifted. Underground vaults. Quiet machines. Systems sleeping beneath planets and moons. "These safeguards were never meant to rule," he said. "They were meant to wait." A coalition voice interrupted. Sure. Angry. "You waited until we were vulnerable," it said. "You waited until you could control us." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No," he replied. "We waited until someone crossed a line that could not be ignored." The screens showed the bombing of Haven Reach. Clean beams. Silent destruction. "You didn't declare war," Daniel said. "You didn't demand surrender. You erased civilian worlds and moved on." His eyes did not harden. His tone did not change. "That told us something important." Another voice spoke. Quieter. Uneasy. "That you were stronger?" "No," Daniel answered. "That you believed strength meant permission." The machines responded to the conversation in ways only the coalition noticed. Energy levels shifted slightly. Containment fields adjusted, steady but present. Not threatening. Watchful. "The systems you see now," Daniel said, "listen to one rule." Text appeared beneath him, translated into hundreds of languages. "Preserve life. Remove threats." "They do not know revenge," he said. "They do not know pride. They only measure risk." A leader asked, "And who decides what a threat is?" Daniel did not hesitate. "Patterns," he said. "History. Behavior." The images changed again. Wars paused by sudden shutdowns. Weapons disabled before firing. Fleets drifting safely but powerless. "When violence rises to a point where entire populations can vanish," Daniel said, "the system intervenes." "And if we resist?" another leader demanded. Daniel met the camera. "Then the system will continue to do what it was built to do," he said. "Protect life." The words were simple. Their meaning was heavy. The coalition chamber fell into quiet discussion. Signals crossed between leaders. Fear mixed with calculation. Some saw loss of control. Others saw relief. One leader asked the question many had avoided. "Are humans in control of these machines?" Daniel paused. "We guide their purpose," he said. "But we do not command every action." That was intentional. "Why?" the leader asked. "Because absolute control always becomes a threat," Daniel replied. The honesty unsettled them. Daniel went on. "Humanity learned something early," he said. "No species should be trusted with unchecked power. Not even our own." The room shifted again. Less tension. More attention. "You want peace," one leader said carefully. "We want survival," Daniel answered. "Peace is how that usually happens." The message continued for hours. Questions were asked. Answers were given. Limits were explained. The safeguarded regions were not expanding endlessly. They were positioned where destruction had proven too easy. Where history showed repeated collapse. Trade was allowed. Exploration was allowed. Growth was allowed. Annihilation was not. You are forcing your values on the galaxy, one voice accused. Daniel nodded. Yes, he said. The value that life should not be erased casually. The systems hummed quietly as if agreeing. When the meeting ended, Daniel did not smile. He did not threaten. He did not celebrate. He simply said one last thing. We are still here, he said. We would prefer not to be tested again. The signal ended. Across the coalition worlds, reactions spread. Some empires began dismantling old weapons, realizing they were now useless. Some grew angry and pulled back from the protected zones. Others quietly adjusted policies, choosing stability over pride. Wars slowed. Borders softened. Not because humanity demanded it, but because the cost of ignoring the boundary was now clear. Far from the chambers, deep inside the machines themselves, processes shifted. They recorded the exchange, updated threat models, refined their understanding. They did not judge intent. They measured outcome. They remembered the silence after Haven Reach. They remembered the empty ground where cities had been. And they stood ready not to punish, but to prevent the galaxy from repeating that moment. On a quiet human world being rebuilt stone by stone, Daniel watched the stars through reinforced glass. Children played nearby. Engineers worked. Farmers planted again. Humanity had survived. Not by striking back, but by drawing a line so calm, so steady, that even the universe had to slow down and take notice. The coalition waited for destruction. After Daniel's message, many leaders believed it was only a delay. They expected the machines to tighten their hold, to spread faster, to begin taking worlds. History had taught them that power was never shared. It was taken. So they prepared for the worst. Fleets were moved to hidden positions. Weapons were tested far from the stabilized regions. Old plans were pulled from storage. Not to attack, they told themselves, but to be ready. Nothing happened. The massive structures near human stars did not advance. Their light dimmed slightly, their movements slowed. Space remained calm. Trade routes stayed open. Civilian ships passed without trouble. The systems slowed, but they did not sleep. That worried the coalition more than any attack would have. A second message came weeks later. Again it arrived quietly without warning. This time it was not broadcast to everyone. It was sent only to those with authority to decide the future of their people. Daniel appeared again. He looked more tired now. Lines marked his face. But his eyes were steady. You expected punishment, he said. That's understandable. He let the words sit for a moment. We expected fear, he continued. And we were right. Images followed. Data showing coalition fleets repositioning. Energy spikes from weapons tests. Not accusations. Just facts. This is the pattern that destroys civilizations, Daniel said. Fear followed by force. A leader responded, voice tight. And what do you expect us to do? Trust machines we do not control? Daniel nodded once. Yes, he said. The same way you trust gravity. Or stars. Or time. That answer unsettled them. You offer peace, another leader said. On whose terms? Shared ones, Daniel replied. Responsibility, not submission. The word echoed. Responsibility. Daniel explained carefully, slowly. In simple terms, meant to be understood by many minds. The safeguarded regions would remain. They were not borders of an empire. They were safety lines. Areas where extinction-level actions would be stopped, no matter who attempted them. In return, humanity offered access. Knowledge. Technology focused on survival, not domination. Star stabilization. Disaster prevention. Medical systems designed for many species. We're not here to rule, Daniel said again. We're here to reduce the chances that anyone presses a button they can't take back. Some leaders pushed back. What if we refuse? One asked. Daniel did not raise his voice. Then nothing changes, he said. The systems remain. They will not punish refusal. Only actions. And if we test them? Another asked. The silence that followed felt heavier than a threat. Then you will learn where the limits are, Daniel said finally. The message ended soon after. Across coalition space, debate exploded. Some called the human offer a trap. Others called it a miracle. Smaller civilizations, long caught between stronger neighbors, saw hope for the first time in generations. One by one, decisions were made. A trade alliance near human space accepted the shared framework. Their weapons were registered. Their borders calmed. Piracy vanished almost overnight. Not through force, but because it no longer worked. A long feuding pair of empires refused at first. They tested the boundary with a controlled strike near a stabilized region. Their weapons shut down before firing. Their ships drifted for days, systems locked but life support intact. No one died. The message was received. Elsewhere, scientists worked with human archives to prevent star collapse. Engineers learned how the machines read risk, how they predicted escalation before it became visible. Humanity did not lead these efforts alone. They invited others in. Shared responsibility. On a rebuilt colony world, Daniel met with Sarah and others who had kept humanity alive through silence. They spoke quietly, watching the sky. "Do you think they'll accept it?" Sarah asked. "Some will," Daniel said. "Some won't." "And if they don't?" Daniel looked up at the stars, calm and distant. "Then we endure," he said. The systems responded to the new reality. Their activity levels adjusted. Some structures powered down partially, entering watchful states. Others remained fully active near unstable regions. They were patient. They did not celebrate cooperation. They did not relax their rules. Mercy had limits. The coalition learned that quickly. Years passed. Children grew up in a galaxy that felt different. Safer but also more careful. Wars became rare not because anger vanished, but because escalation was no longer easy. Power shifted. Not toward humans but away from destruction. Some leaders resented that. Others were grateful. Humanity stayed mostly quiet again. Not hidden but focused. Building. Repairing. Teaching. They did not strike first. They did not need to. The galaxy understood now that pushing humans too far did not bring loud revenge. It brought something worse. Endurance. A calm force that did not shout, did not boast, and did not go away. The coalition had expected destruction. Instead, they were offered a future where survival mattered more than pride. Some accepted it with open hands. Others accepted it slowly. But all understood the same truth in the end. Humanity would never strike first, but it would always be there. Watching. Waiting. Enduring. Years passed, and the colonies that had once burned under alien fire began to thrive again. On the surface of Haven Reach, towns and cities grew slowly, brick by brick, dome by dome. Children laughed along the dusty roads where once only ash had fallen. Farmers replanted fields, using seeds saved in underground vaults. Water systems repaired themselves through old human technology, quietly humming in hidden channels beneath the ground. Humanity had returned, not just to survive but to live. Sarah walked among the people, moving from one restored sector to another. She inspected structures, made small adjustments to systems, and spoke to those working nearby. The survivors had learned patience. They rebuilt carefully, knowing that the galaxy could be dangerous, and that strength often came quietly, not loudly. Sarah remembered the first days underground, the moment the machines had begun to awaken. She had feared that humanity's silence would be the end. But now it had been their greatest weapon. Above, space was no longer quiet. Human-made machines floated silently near the stars, stabilizing radiation, correcting unstable orbits, and adjusting energy flows in systems once thought impossible to manage. Ships traveled safely between colonies, using hidden corridors that humans had reconstructed over decades. These machines were not armies. They did not fire. They did not conquer. But they were always there, always watching, ensuring that no accident, no reckless action, could destroy what had been carefully rebuilt. Daniel walked along the top of a rebuilt observatory, looking out across the stars. The same calm that had guided humanity through its darkest days remained in him. He thought of the coalition leaders who had once expected rage and retaliation. How small their fear now seemed in comparison to what had really awakened. Humanity had not sought war. They had sought survival, and in doing so, had become more than the galaxy had expected. Messages traveled slowly across human networks, quietly connecting the scattered colonies, the hidden stations, and the rebuilt cities. Humans shared knowledge, repaired old systems, and passed instructions for the next generations. No one celebrated the machines openly. They were tools, guardians, and reminders. They had been built to act only when humans could not, to step in where survival itself was at risk. Humanity did not boast about this power. It did not threaten. It simply existed, steady as the stars themselves. The coalition continued to observe. Ships that had once prepared for war now moved carefully through the galaxy, wary of regions stabilized by human systems. Traders, explorers, and diplomats began to pass quietly between colonies, aware that humanity no longer reacted immediately to provocation, but that their silence carried weight. Stories spread, softly, quietly, of worlds that had vanished under alien assault and then quietly returned. Of machines that prevented destruction not for conquest but for protection. Of a species that endured when others might have perished. It became a quiet legend told among starfarers in hushed tones. If humanity ever fell silent again, it was no sign of weakness. It was a sign that something far older, something far larger, had awakened beneath the stars. Ships would slow in human-controlled space. Pirates would hesitate. Fleets would pause in their maneuvers, unsure of what force might be watching. And for good reason. Humanity had learned that survival was not just about fighting. It was about enduring, about planning, about preparing machines and networks that could act faster and more surely than any single soldier or weapon. On one remote world, a young boy named Liam looked up at the sky. He had grown up hearing the stories of the first bombing, of the silence, of the machines that had awakened. He did not understand all the details, but he understood one thing clearly. His people had survived when no one expected them to. He knew that the galaxy watched humans cautiously, even with centuries of peace. He knew that being human meant more than just living, it meant being careful, being clever, being patient. Sarah joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Remember," she said, "our silence is our strength. The galaxy may not see it, but when we act, it is with purpose." Liam nodded. Somewhere deep underground in hidden control rooms, old systems hummed softly. They adjusted energy flows, monitored star stability, and tracked dangerous anomalies. They waited. They watched. They had no emotions, no pride, no malice. They had a single command: preserve life, remove threats. And above them the galaxy remembered. Traders whispered the words. Soldiers repeated them quietly. Explorers shared them across distant systems. If humans ever went silent again, it meant that something ancient had awakened. And nothing, no ship, no fleet, no weapon could escape its watch.